Welcome to my introduction to pivot tables and dashboards. This is a course that I wrote several years ago, and I quite often in this course refer to the downloaded sheet that you have here. Basically, you can use any download of data that you have to play along to figure out some of these things that I'm talking about. So please go and retrieve some data and follow along step by step, and you'll gain the most out of this course. This was a download from another program, and when they got this download, it was hard for them to figure out what was going on and where things were. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do very similar to what I did for them. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a pivot table so we can see what this data looks like. So the first step in creating a pivot table is I always create a table first. So click somewhere in your data, and then we're going to go to the insert on the menu bar, and then we're going to select table. And please note my table has headers. If you don't do that, then they will put all of your headers into the rest of the data, and it's not going to work out properly. So it automatically knows. See, it's going from A1 to 9065, row 9065, and that's perfect. And so we're going to say OK. Okay, now that we have a table on here, if we go up to our menu bar has changed, and now we have the table menu, and we see that it's table 1. Now, if this was another table, it would be possibly a different number there, or you could have possibly renamed your table to something else. But it's important that you see that it's table 1. It's important that you see what the table name is. Okay, so now that we have our table, we're going to go to the insert menu again, and we're going to go to pivot table. Okay, now there's options here. First of all, it's telling you which table it's using. So it's saying I'm going to use the data from table 1, which is exactly what we want. Now we have other options here. We can use external data source. We can put it on either a new worksheet, or we can do it on the existing worksheet. And then if you wanted to do an existing worksheet, it would ask you for where the location was. But what we're going to do is we're going to go on a new worksheet, just because this is too much data, and so let's work from there. And so I'm going to go OK. And then we're brought to a new sheet here, and then we have on the right side we have pivot table fields, and it's listing the fields that you have on your table. And then below that we have boxes at the bottom. We have filter, we have columns, we have rows, and we have some values. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here, and I'm going to click on salesperson, and automatically it goes into the rows. Now, if you didn't want it, this is just an example. We want it to go in the rows, but if we didn't want it to go in the rows, let's say we wanted it to go in the columns, we could just click on it and drag it over to the columns. But we don't want to do that. I'm just showing you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to put it in rows. Now, what they were trying to figure out, first of all, is they're trying to figure out how much money these guys were selling in this time period. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go up, we're going to scroll up, and we're going to click on the amount. And the amount we're going to put in the sum values here. Now, we'll click on this and we'll drag it down to the amount field here. And there you go. There you have what each one of these people made or sold during this month here. Now, there's other options that you can do. So here's your pivot table all done now. And so it's, it's very simple just to get to this stage, but there's options you can do. Let's go into the value where it says sum of amount. Now, if we drop down the list arrow beside the sum of amount, what I've done is I've reduced the size of my screen so that you're able to see. When I click on the sum of amount, there's a list arrow here beside that. So let's click on that. And we're going to get at the very bottom of the list, of the drop-down list, we're going to get value field settings. And so now you see that we have sum, and then we have average, and we have minute, average, maximum, minimum product. You can do standard deviation, you can do count numbers, you can do many things besides the sum. So let's do the average, and we'll say okay. So now we have changed our total to an average, and the numbers are, now you can tell that the average is quite different than the total. So let's change it back to total, and what we can do is we could just go undo, and there we're back to the sum. Now let's do the other options that you have here. So we've just got two fields in here. We have the salesperson, and then we have the total of their sales. So now let's put in something in the column. Let's go, let's choose type. And so you can see that they have a variety of things that they can do. They can sell access, delivery, rental, delivery, sales. And so now it's broken down. You still have the same total at the end here, but now it's broken down into each of the fields or each of the types of things that they can sell. Okay, so the other thing that we can do, so let's just take the type out of here and bring it back here. And so now we have a filter here. In this other box here, we have above the salesperson, we have a filter. So now let us go and let's take the type and let's put it into filter. Now, right now, so here on the above our chart here, we have type and we have all. So let's drop the list arrow and let's choose rental, because that's what their major portion was, and let's go OK. And so now you can see what portion of these total values are the rentals. So the other thing we can do is we can play around with things. This isn't set in stone, so what we can do is first of all, we can take the type out of the filter here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the salesperson out of here. And now I'm going to put the type into the rows. And so there you have the different types and what they did on each of these different values. So each of these different products, this is the sales for each of these. So with a pivot table, you can play around and get exactly what you want with all your data. So let's work on this some more, and we'll start doing some things you can do to customize these pivot tables. Once again, I would like you to open up the pivot tables data that's included in this section of the course. And once we open it, we will follow along and we will do everything I do. So just to review, what we're going to do, we have the basic data that we're starting with. So we're going to click somewhere in here and we're going to go insert on the menu bar and we're going to go insert table. And we're making sure that we have my table has headers checked, and we'll say OK. And then we're going to go insert on the menu bar and we're going to go pivot table. I would like this to be on a new worksheet, and I'm using table 1. Now, so we're going to say OK, and basically what we're doing is we're bringing up the same data as we had last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my salespeople, and that'll instantly go into my rows here. Now, the other thing I'm going to click on is I'm going to click and drag it down to my values as I'm going to click on amount. Okay, by default, it totals this column. It names it sum of amount because it's doing a sum of the totals here. So I would like to change that name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the sum of amount total at the top there, and then I'm going to get a dialog box. You can type in, and it says custom name here. You can replace this sum of amount with anything else you'd like. And so I'm going to type in total sales. Okay, now, so we can go OK, and that has gone to total sales. Now, let's double click again. Now these are dollar amounts, and so let's double click again, and now we have on the bottom here we have number format. So I'm going to click this box here, and I'm going to go down the dialog box and I'm going to select currency. Now, right now the default is the $, but there's every currency that I can think of listed in here. So I'm just going to go with the currency with the $, and I'd like to show the cents, so I'll have the 2 decimal places shown in there. And so I'm going to go OK, and OK again. Now my values have turned to dollars with the cents indicated in the $, in front of the currency. Now, the other thing we can do when we're doing this, we have before put in the type in another column, but we can put in the type below the salesperson. So if we go type and drag it below the salesperson, then you can see at the top for Jan, she has 204,945 sales, and this is what it's broken down into each of these parts. Now, if we go on our menu bar, we have this new menu bar that says Analyze and Design. So in this, let's click on the Design. Now, we have the option of, we can do not show subtotals, show all subtitles at the bottom of the group, show all subtitles at the top of the group. So I'm going to click on do not show subtitles totals here, and the subtotals will go away. Now, if we want I'm going to show subtotals at the bottom of the group. So we have at the bottom, we have Jan at the top, and then we have Jan total at the bottom. Now, I personally like Jan total at the top, so I'm going to go to subtotals again, and I'm going to show subtotals at the top of the group. Now, the other thing that we have here on this design, is we have different pivot table styles. If you drop down the list arrow, you have all kinds of different pivot table styles that you can select from. So the nice thing about these is that you can mouse over them and you can see what your style is going to look like. And so I think I will pick this one. Now, if you want lines in your pivot table, what you can do here is you can go banded rows and then you can go banded columns. So that again has changed the appearance of your pivot table. The other thing we can do is we can go to the Analyze. So on this Analyze sheet, you click the list arrow below Pivot Tables here, and you get, and we're going to select Options. Now, this Options box, I'm not going to change anything, but I'm just going to show you that you can merge and center cells with labels. You can format error values for empty cells show, and that type of thing. There's all kinds of things of different ways of displaying your pivot table. You can customize it as much as you want. So that is my run at customizing your pivot table. We'll go on to more things that you can do with your pivot table. To follow along with this lesson, please open up the calculated fields file that is in the section of this course, and then we will begin. So here we have here our basic pivot table that we've created in the earlier lessons, and we've got the total sales now and the values as currency with the dollar signs on them. So we would like to figure out how much money these guys are making on commission. Now, we can add a calculated field in to our pivot table, and we can do a couple of things with that. So we're using the total sales, which is the amount, and then we're going to multiply it by, let's say 4% is what they're going to make on their commission. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on the table, and then we're going to go up to the Analyze on the toolbar once we've got the pivot table clicked. And in the pivot table, then we have this new toolbar that comes up. And what we're going to do is we're going to select Fields, Items, and Sets. And we're going to drop down the list arrow. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a calculated field. Okay, and you're going to get a dialog box up. Now the first thing it's going to ask you is what's the field. So I'm trying to calculate commission here. So I'm going to type in commission as my title for my field. Now the commission is let's say 4% of the amount. And so what we're going to do is you can either click amount and then click insert field, or you can just double click amount. What we're going to do is we're going to delete the 0 there. Okay, so we're going to delete the 0, and then we're going to either select amount and go insert field, or just double click the amount. And then we're going to multiply it by 0.04 to get 4%. And multiplying in Excel is the star key, which is either on your number keypad or it's Shift 8 on your letter keypad. And then I'm going to multiply it by 0.04. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to add this to our pivot table now. And we say OK. So you notice it says sum of commission here. I don't want it to say sum of commission. What I want to say is commission earned. So I'm going to double click on the title there, and I'm going to change it to commission earned. And so then we say OK. Now notice that our total sales, the value that came from our thing, was already formatted into currency, and because we're using that, then your commissions earned will be in currency as well. And so now let's show you something else you can do. Now we're going to use a field that's not on the pivot table chart, one that we haven't selected. So let's click, and we're going to go to the fields, items and sets, and we're going to go calculated field. Now I'm just going to leave it at field 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do delete the 0, and then I'm going to double click amount, and we don't have quantity on our pivot table. We haven't selected it, so you can choose items that aren't on the pivot table itself. So we are going to select, we're going to divide, which is a backslash, and then we're going to divide by quantity. And then we're going to go add, and then we're going to go OK. Now it says field 1, and that's because we didn't put anything in, but you can see that we have added the quantity to this pivot table, which we didn't already have on here. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out is if you're thinking, oh, maybe I should just change this to, instead of 4%, change it to 5%. So if you double click on that one, what it's going to do is it's going to give you another sheet. So once you have made your earned, or once you have entered your calculated field, it's just easy to delete it and recalculate it, as opposed to trying to amend the formula once it's on. Now, if you're trying to do something that you can't calculate, it's just going to give you error messages. And so I am going to divide the amount by the type. And the type is not a number. The type is rental, access, that type of thing. And so it'll give you an error message. It will let you do it, but it will give you an error message. And so I'm going to click back on our cell, on our pivot table. I'm going to click on Analyze, and then I'm going to Fields and Sets. And I'm going to go Calculated Field, and I'm just going to leave it at field 2. And I'm going to go delete. I'm going to delete the 0. And then I'm going to select amount again. And I can either go multiply or divide. It's still not going to give me anything except for an error message, because these are words and not numbers. Okay, and so I go add, and then I go OK, and I should get nothing but error messages. And so I get divide by 0 all the way down here, because there's no numbers in this category. So to delete this, all I do is I go to my so to delete this, I just go to my sum of values, and I scroll down until I get to field 1, and then I can just bring it up, and because I really don't want it on there. It's just showing me the error messages. So this is very easy, and you can customize your pivot table as much as you would like. We're going to go back to sheet 1, and we're going to look at the data that we have created our pivot table from. In this sheet, we have both the date, which is basically the sales date, and the billing date. So we'd like to make a timeline, and I think we would like to make it on the sales date as opposed to the billing date. The billing date is very similar in all of them. So let's go back to our sheet here. And we're going to click on the Analyze tab at the top here. And now, if you don't have the Analyze tab, if you've clicked away, and so that you just have your pivot chart here. Now, so if you click right on your pivot table, your Analyze will come up. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to the center, close to the center section, and we're going to go Insert Timeline. Now, it's asking you which of the date fields that you would like to choose. And so I would like to pick date as opposed to billing date. And I say, okay. So there is our timeline for us. Now it's shown us July. If we take off, if we can select July, we can select August, and it will change our data. June, and we can go back. I believe this runs from about March. So let's go March, April, May. Now we can select individual months, or we can select range of months, or we can go back to individual months. There is also an opportunity for you to change the appearance. If you're trying to match it up with something else you have on your sheet, you can drop the list arrow on this option button appears. This option menu bar appears when you have your timeline on your data. So let's click down the list arrow, and we can pick from different varieties of what we'd like. Let's pick this one. Okay, now also on your options button, your options menu that appears here, you can remove the header. So right now it says date, which is the name of the field that we're reflecting, and so we can click that off, and it will go away. And click it back on. Now we have a scroll bar at the bottom here, so you can go across the months already. So let's take off the scroll bar, and that will disappear. Now we have a time level, which is this here, which will allow us to choose whether years, quarters, months, days. And I think months is about the best for this one. If we did days, it would be very difficult. We could see by individual days how much was sold. Nothing on that day. And Larry sold $124.94 on that day. So I believe that months is the proper one to be using for this chart. And so let's go to April, and all of a sudden we have big numbers coming back up. So everything is available. It allows you to choose the width and the date, but you can always just stretch out the fill handles here. And when you click away, it will the menu will disappear and the fill handles will go. Now, if you happen to have another pivot chart that you wanted to attach to this timeline, if you had more than one on one page and you want to have a timeline with it, you can click on the report connection. And right now, it's showing you that if you had that you only have one pivot table and it's connected to it. But if you had a list of pivot tables here, you could select which ones you wanted to have attached to this timeline. So timelines are very easy and very quick to use. What we're starting with here is basically we're starting with our basic pivot table, like we finished in we did in our last one, where we have the salespeople, and then we have the total sales, where we've renamed it from sum of sales, and now we've got this formatted as currency. What we would like to do is we would like to have a percentage of how much each of these people sold out of the percentage of the grand total. To achieve that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put in the total sales again. So what we're going to do is we are going to click on the amount and we're going to bring it down to below total sales. And now it says sum of amount. Now, what we're going to do is we need to format that so now it's going to show percentage. So we can either drop down the list arrow beside the amount here, or what we can do is double click on the title of this and it'll bring up the same dialog box. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the tab in front of the first one that says show values as. And then we have show values as, and there's a drop down list. And then we have a bunch of different percentages that we can display. So I'm going to display percent of grand total. And we'll say okay. And what it's giving you now is what each person has done towards the grand total of this sales for the month. Now this is very handy, and I usually like having it displayed, but there's other things that we can do with this. Now the percent of the grand total is good, but let's do something else here. Let's go and double click on the sum of amount here, and we'll bring up the dialog box, and what we're going to do is show values. And percent of grand total, we're going to drop down the list here, and we're going to say the percent of row total. Now, automatically, you're going to get 100% here because the values all are 100%, except for these ones that they have nothing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to choose type, and we're going to drag it below the sum of values here. And so we're going to click this and drag it down there. And so now, if we extend our chart, we can see that how much each person has got in each area. So rental, for example, for Jan is 74%, 77%. Rental is the biggest one. But these other ones are also contributors to their total. So we still have so the totals are still 100%, but now they're broken down into each of these totals, and on the bottom they're broken into each of these totals. So that is another way that you can benefit from showing the percent of totals, so that you can exactly just determine where your data is coming from and where the money you're making is. Our basic pivot table that we have been working with throughout this course. And now let's see what else we can do here. We have, in this pivot table, we have a blank section here. And let's choose some options on what we're going to do with this. Would you like it to say 0, or would you like it to say whatever word to fill in the blank? What we're going to do is we're going to right click on the blank cell, and then we're going to go select pivot table options. When we've selected pivot table options, this dialog box appears. We're looking for the layout and format tab, which is the first one here. And then if you go down under the format, there's a checkbox and it says for empty cells show. Now you can either select 0, and you can say okay, and so then it puts the $0 in there. Or if we go undo, and then we're going to right click again and bring up the dialog box again, you can select, for example, nil, and that will be replaced. So the options are up to you. You can choose whichever one suits your data better. So now let's go on to grouping. Grouping is a neat function. Now, if you're using 2016 or later, what we're going to do is we're going to put the date from our, select the date, and we're going to put them below the salesperson in our rows section here. So we're going to click on date and we're going to drag it below rows. Now automatically it's going to break it into months and date. Now it groups itself. When you use date, it automatically breaks it into months and date because of its automatic grouping feature from 2016 on. And so, for example, it's got into March, and now you can see the days that items were sold in March for this person for Jan. And you can click on the plus sign and it'll go back to being there. And each of the months will be subtotaled. Now, if you have Excel version that's before 2016, what you're going to have to do is right click on the date and select how you want it grouped, whether you want it grouped by months, by quarters, or years, perhaps, if you have that much data in your range of data. So now let us go and let's take date. We'll have to take both date and months out of there, even though we only put one in, but we'll have to take both of them out. And so now we're back to our regular pivot table. Okay, so let's say these salespeople were for different parts of the areas. So let's select Jan, Charlie, and Coffer, and let's right click on this. We can either do right click on this, or we can go to the Analyze tab and we can go group, or we can right click on here and select group. It gives you the same thing. Now the group is automatically got a subtotal for that group. The group type label can be changed to here. What we're doing is we're selecting it and we're going to the formula bar here and we're typing in West. And so there is your West total. Now if we wanted to select the next one, what you would do is you would select Dave, John, and Larry, and you would go right click on those and go group. And so once again, you could change this to East. And there you have your West area and your East area, and there is a subtotal for both of those. Now to ungroup them, you simply just select this and you right click and you go ungroup. And then we're back to each of the salesmen individually. Group is a nice feature just for the fact that it automatically gives you the subtotals for each of the groups. So we're going to work on creating a pivot chart now. So if you could open up the pivot chart data Excel file that I have included with this section of the course, you'll get more out of this course if you can follow along and do what I'm doing. So we have our basic pivot chart that we've been using all along. So we have the salespeople and the amount of sales they did during this period. So let's click right onto the pivot chart. And then from the Analyze, we have Analyze and Design comes up. We will choose Analyze. And then we're going to select from the toolbar, we're going to select Pivot Chart. Now, it gives you what it suggests would be a good pivot chart for this one, which is the bar here, the column. So you can go down the list and see what the other pivot charts would look like and whether they'd be more suitable for what you need. But I think I'm going to just go with this column that they suggested to start with. And so what we're going to do is click OK, and there's your pivot chart. Now, the pivot chart is basically a starting point. Right now you have the format section up. You can format areas. You can, so it says format chart area, which is the background, or you can go button salesperson, you can go vertical axis legend. It's basically, you can do anything you want. You can also go to the design tab that's now up here. And this gives you more options. The first thing is that you can add chart elements. So on the design tab, if you go drop the list arrow beside add chart element, there's a list of things that you can do. You can add access and titles and chart titles. Instead of total, you could put nothing. You can put a legend in here. You can put grid lines. And you can do basically a data table, so it's going to say underneath what everything is. Now, that's options for you. The bigger options set is there is a list down of, or a drop-down list of possible charts that you can use. So you have the option of bluing out the background, or you can black out the background. You can change where the totals are displayed. You can change. Now, I find this one difficult to read, so I'm going to go with the one that I have here. So basically, you can do anything you'd like here. Now, there's the option here where it says Move Chart, and now this gives you an option of, we'll be later on, we're going to be creating a dashboard, so you would move it to another sheet for it to be displayed along with the other ones that you're doing. So I'm going to just leave it the data that you have on your chart, and it's going to filter it by another field. And so look at the fields that we have on our data for this chart. So I think I'm going to filter it by type. So I'm going to click on the Insert Slicer, and it's going to give you all these fields that you have in your pivot chart field, and I'm going to select Type. And we'll say OK. Now it gives you a list of the eight cells here. But now if you wanted to put two columns so that you had them beside each other, you could do that. So I'm going to go up here and where it says buttons, and I'm going to go two columns. And so now what I'm going to do is, this is difficult to read, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch it out so that you can see the whole area. Now, so what you can do is you can filter by each of these. So delivery sales, and you're going to get different values. Access, you're going to get different values. Rental is always the big one. And it's going to change for each of these. Now, if you want to turn off the filters so that you just see the data without any filters on it, what you do is go up to the filter sign on the slicer chart here, and you click that, and now it has selected them all, so we have all of them displayed. So now let's see what else we can add to this chart. So we've talked previously about the timeline. So what I want to do now is I want to put a timeline and link it to this chart. So what I'm going to do is, because there's not enough room in here for the timeline, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first two rows. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go Insert, and maybe insert one more time. And so now what I would like to do is, I'm clicking on my chart, I'm going to the Analyze tab, and I'm going to insert a timeline. And what I would like my timeline to be displaying is the date, which is basically the date the sale was made. and I'm going to say OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up to the top of my chart, and maybe I'm going to make it a little narrower. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across. Okay, so now not only can we filter by the different types of things that were sold, we can filter by the months. So let's go June, and let's go July, and maybe we want to do May, June, July. So I'm just dragging across the three of them. So, and now if I don't want any of the filters to be there, what I do is I go up by the filter sign at the top of this, and I go down, and it's back to normal. Now I can use both of these at once. So let's go parts on our slicer here. And let's go parts for June. See what the parts were sold in June. So now we have our information. We've not only does our pivot chart change, but our pivot table also changes to reflect the information that we have filtered out. So this is the amount of money that they sold in parts in this period. So we will be using much of this information for the dashboards that we will be creating in the next section. Before you begin creating a dashboard, you need to have an idea of what you're going to do. The first thing you need to do is pick a color. Now, everything doesn't have to be that color, but it has to be matching. You have to have a theory behind what you're doing. So what I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to put a box at the top, and that's going to be, this is just on the paint window that I'm using. I'm just going to put a box at the top, and that's where my title is going to be of my dashboard. And so I'm going to draw a box here, and we'll go across there, and I'll fill this in, and that's where I would write my title. Now, below that, I would leave some space here just because I'm going to want to put slicers up here. So what I'm going to do is normally it's 4 or 6 charts that are going to go on your dashboard. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in squares for where my charts are going to go. And I'm going to move down here so I have room for my slicers up here. And I'm going to go, there's one chart, and like the charts need to be different charts, but I'm just leaving enough space for each one. And so I'll put another little space there, and that'll be my second chart. And then I'm going to fill in 2 more here. And so there's going to be my 4 charts for my dashboard. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is I would like to have slicers up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this a horizontal bar here for my slicers. So I'm going to pick this one more time, and I'm just going to leave it blank so we can put slicers in there, and I'll put it so that it's lined up with my 2 charts here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a vertical box, and that's going to be my timeline. So not only does this dashboard planned out with the colors and how the layout's going to be, you know that it's going to be very interactive for the fact that you have both slicers and a timeline that's going to link to all of these. And it's because you have planned it out in advance, it's going to be aesthetically pleasing and hopefully display your data the way that needs to be displayed. In order for you to get the most out of this chapter, you need to follow along. So please download the dashboard data that I have provided for you in this section of the course. And when you have it open, then let's get started. The first thing you need to do, we have our normal pivot table that we have been working on throughout this course. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to open up a brand new sheet. And how you do that is you go click the plus sign. And what we're going to do is we're going to rename this sheet Dashboard. So I'm double clicking where it says sheet 3 and I'm saying Dashboard. And I'm pressing enter. And so then we are good. So now what we do is we're going to go to the page layout. And we're going to select orientation. We want this to be landscape. And so I'm going to select landscape. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select A1 to L1. And I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I'm going to choose the fill color, and I'm going to choose deep blue. And that's good now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select A1. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my font color to white. And then I'm going to type in sales totals. Now we need to make this a little stronger, so let's make it bold and let's make it at least 14. So that should be good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to select from A2 to L14. Now, I'm sorry, L4. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm going to color this in for my title. There's another way of doing it, and that would be inserting a text box that would be gray colored. The advantage to this is that we can have cells that are linked to other sheets in this, and if you put it on a text box, it is far more difficult to do that. So with these selected cells, I'm going to drop down the fill bucket here, and I'm going to select gray. So that is the start of my dashboard here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to sheet 2, and that's where our pivot table is. And I'm going to click right into here. I'm going to the Analyze tab on my sheet, and I'm going to select Pivot Chart. Now it's giving me a pretty good selections or suggestions, so I think I'm going to go with that one. And I'm going to say OK. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to change too much about that, but I'm going to change the title. And so when I click on the title here, and it says total, and I want it to say total sales by salesperson. So I'm just going to keep typing in here, put a space in here, sales by salesperson. And then we'll click away to make sure it goes there, and we're good. So now what we're going to do is with our chart clicked here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the design, and then at the end here we have move chart location. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to bring up a dialog box. So right now it's on sheet 2. You can see it's highlighted here. So I'm going to drop the list arrow, and I'm going to select dashboard. and say OK. So now this is in your dashboard. We would like to put in a timeline above this, so I'm going to move down 3 or 4 spaces. Now this is taking up the majority of my my chart, so let's first of all bring it in a bit, and we can play with this later to get it all balanced out for the other one. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put the totals up on our title bar. So I'm selecting A2, and I am going to type in total sales. Now I would like this to be bigger and bolder, so I'm going to click on it and I'm going to make it about 20, and I think I'm going to make it bold. Okay, and so now below there, what we're going to do is we're going to link to the total on this pivot table that we just got our information or got our chart from. So we're going to go equals, and then we're going to go back to sheet 2, and we're going to click on the grand total here, and we're going to press enter. Now, similarly, we would like this to be probably 16 anyways, maybe 14, and we'd like to format it to be currency. So we're going to right click on here, and we're going to select format cells, and from the dialog box we're going to select currency, and I would like a dollar sign. I really don't think I need to have decimal places here, so I'm going to eliminate the decimal places, but I'm going to have the dollar sign, and I'll say OK. So there we have our total sales. Let's make this a little bolder maybe. There we go. So now we're good. So let's go back to our sheet 1, and let's create another pivot table. So we're clicking somewhere in our table here. We're going to the insert on the menu bar. We're going pivot table, and we would like it to be on a new sheet. And so we say OK. Now what we're going to do here is the rows are going to be salespeople again. So what I'm going to do is select salesperson, and I'm going to put it in row. And then I am going to select type, and I am going to put it into the sum of values. By default, it counts the number of items of each of the items that these people have sold, the number of items that they have sold. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to create another pivot chart. So we're going to click in here, we're clicking the Analyze tab, and let's choose the line for our second chart. And there we go. Once again, it says total there. We're going to change this to number of each type. So I'm going to click on there, and I'm going to take this out. And I'm going to go number of each type. Okay, and then I click away. Let's click on our chart again. Let's go to the Design tab. Let's go Move Chart, and we're going to go to Dashboard and say OK. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put it beside the one that we previously put on there. Now what I've done is I put the second chart beside the first person, and I left enough room here for us to put slicers in on this side. And so now what we're going to do is we want to put a total in here. So what we're going to do is put in the number of items sold. So let's click into D, and let's say, and so what we're going to do in D is we're going to say total items sold. Total items is probably good. And now I'm going to click below that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first one, and I'm going to take the format painter, and I'm going to format paint the other one so it looks exactly the same. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to link it to our second chart here. So I'm going to go equals, and let's go to sheet 4, and let's go to the bottom total here. And then we're going to press enter. And one more time, we can't exactly format paint this because we don't want it to be dollar signs. So let's make this a little bigger and a little bolder. And let's make it bold. So there we go. All right. So we're on a roll here. Let's go and make our third chart here. So I'm clicking on my original table here. I'm going insert from the menu, from the insert tab, and I'm going pivot table. And I'm putting it on a new sheet, and we'll say okay. So in this one, I would like the type to be in the rows. So I'm going to drag that down to the rows, and the amount to be in the values. So there we have the sum of amount. We can format that to be currency, but it's not necessary. It won't be showing up on my chart. So let's click on the chart. Let's click on the pivot table or pivot chart. And now we're going to select the pie chart. And we're going to say okay. Okay, so now, first of all, the thing that strikes me as this is that our charts are all blue and gray, and so this one is not. So let's click on here. Just click on the one, and I'm going to go light blue. And I'm going to click on the other side here and make sure I've just got this one, and I'm going to go fill shape, and I'm going to make this a gray. Okay, and the last one that stands out is this green here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to make it a deep blue. Okay, that's good here now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is click on the total, and I'm going to change it to type of sales. And then click away. And then we're going to click back on our chart. We're going to go to the design section, and we're going to move chart, and we're going to move it to the dashboard. Say okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this chart down below this one. Now we have a dotted line, which is the end of our page, so let's make sure we don't go below that. And then we can possibly move it back. Doesn't have to be exactly matched up with the other one, but just so that we're pretty close. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to create another pivot chart. And so what we're going to do is go back to sheet 1, click on here, and we're going to go insert pivot chart. And we'd like to have it on a new sheet again. And so we say okay. What we're going to do is we're going to select the salesperson, and it's going to go in the rows. And what we're going to do is we're going to select quantity. And so this is going to be sum of quantity. Okay, so now let us go and click on our chart, and we're going to make a pivot chart. Now we haven't done a bar chart yet, so let's choose that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to say okay, and we're going to change the name, the total, the name of it. So we're going to change it to quantity sold. And I'm going to press delete to get rid of that other log there. Okay, and then one more time, what we're going to do is click on this, click on our design tab, and then we're going to go to move chart. And we're going to select our dashboard. And then we can position this. No, we're going to close these things because they're in the way. We are going to position this below the other. Now we're going to bring it up so that we can have enough room for our slicers at the side. Let me balance this out a little bit more. You don't really see this one. So there, that's better. Okay, so let's go to the view tab for a second here. We don't need to have the grid lines on, so on the view tab we have grid lines, so let's remove the grid lines. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click on one of the charts here. So I'm clicking on one of the charts, I'm going to the Analyze, and I'm going to insert a timeline. I'm going to select the date, and I'm going to say OK. Now with this timeline, let's stretch it out to make sure that we can see all of the dates or all of the months here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put it up towards the top. We're going to play with it later. And so now we have an options dial or menu bar here. And so let's take off all of these, the headers, the section head, the time level, and the scroll bar. Okay, and so now I'm going to leave the scroll bar on just because of the size. And now let's see how we want this to look. So let's scroll down here, and I want them to be separated. I'll see what this looks like. I think this one looks good. Nope, it's not going to let me do it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just center it across my page here. Now we have this, and it's only linked to one chart. And so now with it selected, we're going to go to Report Connections. And here's the list of all the other pivot charts and tables that we've got here. And so let's connect it to everything. And so we say, OK. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we would like to put in a slicer for this as well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on one of our charts again. We're going to go to Analyze, and we're going to insert a slicer. And so I would like it, the slicer by type. And I'm going to say OK. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to put it on the side here. Now the width is 1.58. I think I can live with 1. And so let's click away. And then what we're going to do is we are going to click on it again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch it to the bottom of my chart. Now we seem to be overhanging a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring in these charts a little bit, just so that we can have room for our slicers on the other side. So it's just a matter of playing with everything until you get it exactly like you like it. And we're going to move this over to here. And the same thing with my bottom chart here. I'm going to pull it over and pull this one over, and so that we're still able to see my slicers. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we've selected the slicer, we've gone to the options, and one more time we're going to connect the report connection, and what we're going to do is select all of the pivot tables and say OK. All right, so now let's just move this up a bit. Okay, so if we go, for example, and select rental, it's going to change all of the items below this. Now, I've left this on top so that we can take the filter off. And so now it goes back to it goes back to all of them. Now, if we select March, it's going to show us what the sales we've had for March. And if we select March, April, May, June, it's going to reflect those. Now, the easiest thing about a time is that you can just drag across the whole time zone, and you're going to get all of it. So the best way to see how this is going to look is, let's go to Print Preview. So we'll go File, and I'll go Print. Now, this looks good to me. Possibly not, because I don't like this at the top here. But what I can do is I can go back and I can play around. So let's go back to where we were. The other thing is, I don't like this. I want it to look more similar to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click. I think I'm going to go dark. So I like that better. Now, what I'm going to do here is I am going to, actually no, maybe I will make this bigger here. So now it looks like it belongs there. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger there. There we go. Now, there's a big space here. What I normally do with that big space is I put in company logos or whatever their logo or brand is at the top here. We have the total sales and the total items, but this is available for you to put other things in. Now, we're a little bit past the bottom here, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the View menu, and we're going to go to Page Break Preview. And so what we're going to do is we are going to pull this down below this. And there you go. That's all in one page now. I'm quite happy with how this is looking. Does yours look as good? Keep practicing. This is the only way of getting good at these things. Welcome to my introduction to pivot tables and dashboards. This is a course that I wrote several years ago, and I quite often in this course refer to the downloaded sheet that you have here. Basically, you can use any download of data that you have to play along to figure out some of these things that I'm talking about. So please go and retrieve some data and follow along step by step, and you'll gain the most out of this course.